Welcome back. It is being called the biggest policy change at the Sarasota Police Department in 3 decades. The city of Sarasota is split into 10 patrol zones by the department. Until now, officers were required to patrol in teams for zones 2 and 3. Zone 2 covers North Trail from 10th Street to Indian Beach Drive. Zone 3 covers the Newtown community. Under the new policy, officers will patrol these zones alone. According to crime mapping from the past week, Zone 2 had 1 assault, while Zone 3 had 8 arrests for larceny, 4 for assault and burglary. In fact, Zone 3 had the highest number of arrests of any zone in the city. And joining us with more on reaction is Sorley Dee, the professor of criminology at the University of Tampa with more than 2 decades of law enforcement experience. And joining us by Skype is Mick McHale, president of the Southwest Florida branch of the Police Benevolent Association. We did invite Chief DePina to take part in this roundtable or send someone to speak for the department, but she declined. So, Mick, I know that this has been a tough situation for you and many of your officers. Chief DePino says this is going to add to the number of units on the street. Why do you think it's a bad idea?
Well, that's not accurate. There's no guarantee. The collective bargaining agreement, which was just ratified, has removed the guaranteed number of officers on the street from a number of 14 in the daytime to 15 at night. Now it is at the sole discretion of the chief of police. We're relying our position on 2 very crucial reports. One by the Department of Justice, the Community Policing Office, that the chief says she's attempting to mimic as far as providing community policing. And the other, which is just as important, is the 2015 FBI law enforcement officers killed in or assaulted in the line of duty. Those are the reports that we are relying upon.
The fact is, Dr. D, there are a lot of reports out there on the issue of 1 or 2 man patrol cars, and there are a lot of reports that seem to conflict with each other in terms of what is the better idea.
It has been a debate since 1956. In 1956, the Louisville, Kentucky Police Management Institute looked at this issue that we're looking at today. And what they found then, and in 1990, the NYPD also examined the same issue, and what they found was that police officers who are in a 1-unit patrol vehicle, for the most part, are not less safe than those who are in a 2-man patrol vehicle. However, if we are looking at backup, police officers who are doubled will have a backup. A police officer in a single vehicle generally will not have a backup. In terms of safety, last year there were 64 police officers that were killed nationwide by gunfire. Out of those 64 officers, most of them, the vast majority, were in a 2-man patrol vehicle. This year alone, we've lost 7 police officers nationwide to gunfire. 3 of them died, and those 3 were in a vehicle by themselves. The other 4 were in a vehicle with other police officers or had a partner.
Mick, what is the people who are watching this tonight to make of some of these competing statistics? I mean, is it something like many things in life that statistics don't tell the entire story?
Well, Alan, great question. According to the Department of Justice report, I'm speaking exclusively of ambush attacks. There were 231 ambush attacks of police officers in the year 2015. 62% were single officer vehicles. The 2-officer patrols had an average of 9%. The survivor rate is 43% for the officers when those offenders have prior criminal records. The 2015 FBI report revealed 50,212 officers were assaulted, 28% sustained injury. 62% of that report showed single officer vehicles. 17.7% were two officer vehicles. Those statistics are two government generated reports, not union generated. The United States government, both the Department of Justice and the FBI.
Right.
And we would point to those reports as a glaring example of our officers are a target of attack.
But Dr. D, it is also true that in many departments around the country, two officer patrol units are a thing of the past, with some notable exceptions, including New York and Los Angeles.
Yes, we have almost 900,000 police officers. And the last report from the Bureau of Justice Statistics suggested that we have 837,000 police officers nationwide and over 12,000 police agencies. And out of all of these agencies, only the NYPD and the Los Angeles Police Department primarily use two officer patrol vehicles. The vast majority of agencies nationwide use single officer police vehicles. My colleague is right that when it comes to ambush, like we had in 2015, the case of Officer Gofford in Texas. So the officer was at the gas station pumping gas, and somebody walked from behind him and fired the officer. And even after the officer fell, this person emptied his gun on the bullet. So that's a case where if you had two officers, you probably will not have lost that.
We're going to dive more into this, but you are also a longtime New York City policeman.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to talk about more of this. We are just getting started. Our discussion continues in a moment, right after our check with the weather, so stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are discussing a major policy change at the Sarasota Police Department. Last month, Chief Bernard DePino announced officers would patrol all parts of the city with only a single officer in a unit. Before the change, policy required officers to work in teams in Newtown and North Sarasota. While Chief DePino turned down our request to be on tonight's program, we are joined by Sarli D., a criminology professor at the University of Tampa and a former New York City police officer. And joining us by Skype is Mick McHale, president of the Southwest Florida branch of the Police Benevolent Association. And Mick, let me go back to you and correct me if I'm wrong. In terms of the right to make this decision, you agree that Chief DePino had that right. But when it got down to the actual policy of making these units single-man units, what was your conversation like with the chief?
We agreed that the chief has the exclusive management right. When I met with the chief after this decision, I was then informed by the chief that the city has made a #1 priority of a staff analysis study to be conducted. It's been authorized by the city manager and supported by the city commission. That was the first time I heard of this type of study being commenced. What we would respectfully request is we could have waited till that study was completed and then made this drastic decision. The other concern we have is we have yet to have the chief identify a specific report or anything that supports this drastic change. As a matter of fact, looking at the chief's history, she has never worked in the environment with the demographics that are here in the city of Sarasota.
Let me jump in and ask you, did you say bluntly to the chief that you believe this policy is going to put officers in danger?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And the chief, just as she is related in previous reports, we brought it to the chief's attention, the concern of the officer safety, and the response was that they were going to monitor this decision and, if possibly needed, make a change. One of the challenges that I had directly to the chief was if the shift lieutenant deemed it necessary to put 2 police officers in 1 vehicle, would they be permitted to do so? And the answer was no. So that clearly indicated to me that the chief was moving forward with the single officer vehicle and that issue was not up for discussion.
All right. Professor D, number one, you worked in the patrol division at the NYPD, so you know exactly what you're talking about here. And despite saying the fact that single officer patrol cars is becoming the norm around the country, you do believe that there is a time and place for 2 officer patrol cars, correct?
Absolutely. You have to look at a number of factors. The population density, it's one of the factors. The threat level to police officers in those areas. If you have an elevated threat level to police officers in particular areas, a 2-officer patrol vehicle in those areas will. And if you are also working in areas where officers constantly need a backup, then police officers will be at risk if they are placed in a vehicle by themselves.
Let me try to ask Mick that. Do you have any data in terms of the particular areas that we are talking about, Mick, how often officers require that backup?
Yes, we are in the process of collecting the data. You led into tonight's report accurately that Zone 3 is an area that has the highest number of causes for officer-involved actions. And it's interesting, the city released a report today of a prostitution sting in the north section, which is typically known as Zone 1. But there has been an occasion, at least once, if not more, where we actually worked a 12-hour shift without a designated officer to that zone. So to your question, yes, we are gathering on a daily basis the operational staffing report as well as reports for calls for service. We were made aware as early as last week, 2 officers called for backup only to be met with a response from dispatch that there was no backup available. Fortunately for the community and the officers, it had a peaceful resolution after a brief struggle with the individual contact.
Dr. D, I would imagine in any police department of a moderate-sized city or a large city, the friction between the community and the officers is something that ebbs and flows. It can get better for a while. It could, in times of maybe reacting to national news, there could be increased tension. Do you see departments around the country reacting in terms of their manpower decisions based upon that?
Yes. About 2 years ago, we had a number of deadly encounters between citizens and police officers nationwide. And many police officers, many police agencies during that period moved their officers from 1-officer patrol vehicles to 2-officer patrol vehicles. And the reason was officer safety. So there are also other agencies that have special condition vehicles. If an agency is going to have a felony car stop, you need 2 officers or more. If there are certain conditions that may warrant 2 officers, and so the mixed method where agencies have both single officer patrol cars as well as 2 officer patrol cars will be by far the best approach in terms of officer safety.
We have a little less than 2 minutes in this segment. I want to ask both you gentlemen the same question. Mick, I think you basically said this, but are you saying that there is basically marching orders coming out of City Hall to go to the single officer cars as a way to save money, and that there is no flexibility?
No. I want to clarify. The chief has made that exclusive decision. The chief and the chief alone to go to single officer vehicle. What the chief revealed to me in my subsequent meeting after this change was there is to be a study, staff study analysis conducted by an outside agency that the city commission, the city manager, and the chief of police are going to conduct this staff study analysis. What I should say is a reputable company.
Right.
My response, or our response, is no changes should have been made until that study had a chance to become completed.
All right.
There was no rush to this decision.
All right, Dr. D, in how many communities around the country have you found that budgetary constraints and political pressures have driven the decision whether or not to go to single officer cars.
So if the goal is to cut cost at the expense of police officers, then that will not benefit the communities. Or the officers. So the goal here, if the City of Sarasota Police Department is putting officers in single officers in patrol cars, in order to double the number of cars without reducing the manpower, then the officers, the citizens will see more police presence, because more police presence will serve as a deterrent. But if the goal is to reduce cost by reducing the number of police officers on the street, then that will not.
But have certain cities been found to do this in order simply to save money?
Several years ago, Philadelphia moved to a one-officer police vehicle, and it's economically more prudent to have single-officer vehicles than two-officer vehicles. Okay. Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break, and when we return, we'll have final thoughts from our guests, plus what some of our viewers are saying about Friday's topic, the halfway point in the President Trump's first 100 days. Stay with us. Welcome back. Will single officer patrols throughout the city of Sarasota help strengthen community relations, or does it create an unnecessary risk for officers? Our guests join us right now for final thoughts. So Mick, as you're talking to our viewers tonight, what do you want them to take away from the position that you're trying to take here?
I want the viewers to completely understand the inherited danger associated with these type of decisions. The rhetoric that it increases the availability of officers to respond for calls is not accurate. We have not increased the number of officers available for calls. If anything, we have decreased those numbers, and 35 to 40 years of statistics had proven that it's in the best interest of the community as well as officer safety in certain areas within the city of Sarasota to continue with the two-officer patrol zone.
All right, Mickey, we do wish the chief was able to join us tonight, but Dr. D, have many of the communities around the country, large cities, small cities, done that they've gone to single-officer cars, but in certain areas at certain times they have continued the use of two officers in one patrol car?
Most cities nationwide use a single officer patrol car, except of course New York City and Los Angeles. And statistically, there is no statistical significance in terms of danger to police officers who are in single vehicle cars, as well as officers who are in two officers in a police car. However, we know that from most of the research that have been done, that officers feel safer when they are with other officers than when they are in a single vehicle.
And we have to leave it there. And we do know that when we say one-man or two-man patrol cars, there are a lot of women police officers who are out there protecting us. Before we go, we want to share with you what some of our viewers are saying about Friday's topic, the halfway point in the President Trump's first 100 days in office. While the administration is already fulfilling many of Trump's campaign promises, such as implementing extreme vetting, cracking down on immigration, and beginning the process of repealing and replacing Obamacare, it has also been mired in scandal. National Security Advisor Michael Flynn resigned, and there has been a near constant drip of information about links with Russia. Here's what some of you are saying about the first 50 days. B. Kyles writes, if he would just left to do what he is there to do, a whole lot more would get done. He has too many hurdles thrown in front of him, but he is overcoming them. Let him do what he promised the American people he would do, take care of the people's business, and make America great again. Mary Beth Waltz writes, what hurdles? His own missteps have caused all his problems. He's totally inept for the job. And Mike Kevin Koch writes, We have had a good run, America. Too bad it had to end this way. Well, if you'd like to join the conversation about tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/news@7. And FYI, want to watch past Roundtable discussions? They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Thanks to our guests for being here tonight. Sorley Dee is an assistant professor of criminology at the University of Tampa, and Mick McHale is president of the Southwest Florida chapter of the Police Benevolent Association. He joined us tonight by Skype.